Good morning and welcome again, everyone watching this to another of our sneak peeks for the upcoming Capture Conference 2022 to be held September 7th and 8th in Chicago, or actually south of Chicago. We have with us today Jeff Willinger. He was Digital Experience Manager with Withum. His session is going to be focused on the cloud, and let's just dive right into it, Jeff. Your session is on the intersection of capture and the cloud. So, but before getting into that capture aspect of the cloud, what common misperceptions about the cloud do you see, regardless of the type of implementation?
I think without a doubt, and Bryant, thanks again for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the Capture show. Actually, I think it's the first full week in September, right after Labor Day. So
Yep.
Look forward to seeing everyone in the Chicago suburbs. I'm a former Chicagoan. The biggest misconception that people have about the cloud is that it's not secure. And I would argue the complete opposite, especially if you're thinking about the Microsoft cloud, the Azure cloud. It is more secure than having your data on-prem. And people think, oh, it's going to get lost. Things aren't going to be the same. It's going to be slow. It's actually all the myths about moving your data to the cloud is the complete opposite of what it is. And the problem that a lot of organizations have is they just don't take the time to sort of build yourself a mini roadmap before you move. Just like if you're going to move your house, you're not just going to all of a sudden one day get a U-Haul and start packing up. You're going to be planning for probably months, if not, some people plan for even longer. But in this particular case, you've got a plan, and there are definitely some steps that you need to take up front before you even consider moving your data to the cloud.
Funny you mentioned the security aspect. I hadn't thought about that in a while, but I flashed back to seeing a couple of server rooms and sort of the door propped open because it got hot in there, so anybody could have walked in. One of the things you have in your session description is about sort of around implementations and rollout of the cloud. So how prevalent are cloud implementations at companies? An entirely cloud-based infrastructure is possible, but it still seems like it's a hodgepodge of apps and use cases and sort of a mixed bag of grab bag really of things.
Yeah. Again, going back to what I was just talking about earlier, if you fail to plan to fail. I've identified 6 important things that every organization, this is what I'm going to do a deeper dive into in my session, Brian. 6 critical things to consider when moving your data. Identity and access management, and I'll do a slightly deeper dive into each of them, but I wanted to give you an overview of each of them. Mail and security. Yeah, wow, we didn't even think about. What about our mailboxes? Absolutely. File servers is obviously the one that comes to mind. Collaboration. What's going to be our main collaboration tool? Are we going to use Microsoft Teams? Are we going to continue to use Zoom? Where does Slack fit in? Do we need all of these? Probably not. And then your enterprise content management, and then optimizing really everything. But everything starts, Bryant, with this identity and access management. It's really the foundation. It's where it all starts. And if you don't have that plan up front, your migration are going to hit roadblocks literally right out of the gate. So make sure having this plan, mapping out the design of where you are and where you're going to be. Again, I equate everything to, new construction on a house. When you want your new bathroom, I'm sure you're going to pick out a new toilet and a vanity and tiles and all the different things that go into it. And it's the exact same thing here. Just again, what's your enforcement policy for users outside the organization? So placing identity and access management really at the core of your strategy is really going to make it a lot easier in improving both operational control and more importantly, the user experience.
Kind of a little bit scary to hear you say that answer and realize that a lot of people probably aren't doing that. So backing up, and I probably should have asked this question either first or before the previous question. Can you quickly define what cloud infrastructure means, it sort of seems like digital transformation. The answer sort of seems to be that it depends on who you're talking to.
It definitely depends upon who you're talking to, because cloud infrastructure to me means everything, basically the blood of the organization, if you will. It's how it breathes, right? So it's really the collection of that hardware and software needed to enable this idea of cloud computing. It includes computing power, networking, storage, as well as an interface for users to access their virtualized resources, which is basically everything.
Right.
Even before the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic uh, really hit it home.
Mhm.
But it's really the components, all the different mishigas, if you will, that needs to go into that really goes into each one of these uh, projects.
Okay. Excuse me. So this might be a little bit redundant based on previous answer, but what's the first thing a company should do before considering a move to the cloud? Even before, obviously you need a plan, but is there anything, and is there any some either even sort of a pre-plan consideration, like a strategic direction or something like that?
You know, planning for what the future is going to be like is really at the core of every organization. They talk about this idea of digital transformation, and it's one of those things that is very scary to a lot of organizations, understandably. And having that focus on the cloud, uh, app modernization, making sure that uh, I was just looking at some statistics, Brian, and I saw 46% of organizations expect to add more cloud environments by the end of this year. And by 2024, over half of all apps are expected to be modern apps. And if you've been following Microsoft technologies at all, probably one of the hottest plays for them is this idea of a no-code solution
Mhm.
where people like you and me are able to develop our own apps using something called the Power Platform.
Right.
We are at a really, really exciting time in our technology careers.
Okay. Um, so there's almost a question in there, but I can't quite bring it out this early in the morning for me. So I will just move on to my script here.
Sure,
Can
sure.
you give us a hint about the conundrum that you mentioned in your title?
I think the conundrum is really figuring out what to do when, really redefining the foundation of IT with these cloud capabilities and then modern architecture that span data and the data center to any cloud for all apps.
Hmm.
Uh, this idea of distributed cloud services to support their apps, um, and really cutting back on any sort of data breaches that might be out there. Uh, it's one of those, when you think about the cloud and data in the cloud, it's very scary for a lot of organizations, understandably. Putting your data anywhere but in your back, wherever your servers are being stored, is scary for a lot of organizations. So really getting their arms around it and having a Sherpa, if you will, guide you on your journey. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, digital transformation, it starts with getting your data to the cloud
Hmm.
and then goes on from there. So during my session, I'm really going to do a deeper dive and show actual case studies of how organizations, at the end of the day, how they save money by going to the cloud. I don't even sell cloud services. I don't sell Azure. Uh, I mean, at the end of the day, I like to think of myself as a digital transformation Sherpa, helping organizations. Again, it really starts with migrating your content to the cloud and making sure that it's the right thing. It's the right thing to do.
I
I
like I like
remember when,
I like the use of that word Sherpa or guide. That's a good way to good phrase to use, I think.
I mean, who doesn't want a Sherpa in life or wherever? I mean, that's sort of That's
Yeah.
sort of where it's at, if you ask me. I mean,
And I'm
it's
sorry,
definitely
I think I cut you off right before I interjected there.
uh, you know what I'd like to tell all your viewers are the sort of steps of a migration, starting with the extraction of the data, right? I mean, we're at a capture conference, so you've got to, extract the data. What are we bringing? Again, back to moving your house. Are we bringing everything with us, or are we not bringing everything with us? And
Mhm.
then analyzing that data, and then deciding, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to extract it. And once it's extracted, really get a good inventory of your documents, content structure, content types, look at the metadata, what's reusable, and then selection. When I talk about selection, it's a great opportunity for you to sort of clean up your data. We're not going to bring all that garbage with us, right? Garbage
Mhm.
in, garbage out.
Right.
And then what we're going to do, Bryant, we're going to map it out. So, for example, if it's already known what this new web content management system is, let's say they're moving from, I don't know, MediaWiki or uh, uh, FileNet to SharePoint or something like that,
Mhm.
really sort of get all your ducks in a row so that when the time comes and we're actually moving the data and mapping those content types, there are not going to be any sort of issues.
Actually do some real information management, right?
That real information management.
Um,
Um,
I, I thought about not asking this question, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. Do you looking out far into the future, do you see on-prem ever going away and being totally replaced by a cloud, or will there always be a place for on-prem in certain, or do you think it'll remain a fairly large part of corporate infrastructure?
do you remember when I remember when email first came out?
That's right.
Of course, I was like 2 years old, and everyone's like, "Whoa, people are never going to mail people anything anymore." And people still write letters. We still get mail every day. How much of it is prevalent, it's unknown. But I will say that the way organizations are set up, I think it's always going to be a hybrid of some sort, where it is going to be part on-prem and part on the cloud, for no other reason than managing the data a little bit easier when you're on-prem. So for especially state and local government, very prevalent, uh, state and local government, as well as who am I doing a project for right now where they just don't want to move everything there, and it's
Mm.
it's really just so that they can manage it better. Again, it's another it's a state
Right.
department, where they're going to move part of it to the cloud and part they're going to keep on-prem, and it doesn't matter to me, uh,
Right.
as long as they're aware of it. And once we get it set up, it will be easier for them to do it as well.
As long as they plan for it, right, is that they can do it.
Exactly.
Jeff, thank you very much for the time. I hope this has been a great conversation. I enjoyed this, learned a lot. Look forward to meeting you on September 7th.
I'm looking forward to seeing you and all the attendees. Thanks again for having me. This has been a lot of fun. And again, look forward to seeing you.